Hey, it's a quick turnaround, and that's all right. The Dolphins getting ready for the Jets on Black Friday. It's the first ever Black Friday game in NFL history. And if you want the Dolphins to win, it's real simple. You got to like this video. We're going to take a deep dive into that New York Jets Dolphins preview coming up on this edition of Dolphins Today. Hey, no rest for the weary, am I right? A quick turnaround with the Dolphins playing on Friday, the first ever Black Friday game in the history of the NFL, and it's the Dolphins and Jets. So on today's show, we're going to get to know the New York Jets. It's kind of been a little bit of a roller coaster ride for the Jets, and you could make the case they're kind of at rock bottom right now. And of course, I'll give you my keys to victory and how Miami can win this game. That's all coming up on this edition of Dolphins Today. Let's start with the New York Jets. And I'm not the only one saying this, so don't take this as Jake Riepma's words. A lot of people have said this is rock bottom for the New York Jets. They've been in the news for, I would say, all the wrong reasons. But let's take a look at how they got there. Because remember, Hard Knocks, the Dolphins are on Hard Knocks for the in-season edition, but preseason was the New York Jets. There was all the excitement. Robert Saleh going to turn it around. You got Aaron Rodgers, and this seemed like the team to beat on paper in the AFC East. Now, we never root for injuries. It was really unfortunate what happened with Aaron Rodgers, but obviously the season did not get going the way the Jets had in mind. But that said, they still kind of were able to, weather the storm and right the ship a little bit. Started 4-3. They had the win over the Giants, and you thought, oh, things aren't that bad in New York. But as of late, they have been that bad. 3 straight losses, and that is not a misprint on the screen there, folks. They're averaging 8 points in their last 3 games. So changes needed to be made, am I right? So farewell, goodbye, Zach Wilson, and I think there's enough data, enough of a sample size. We know he ain't that guy. So farewell, Zach Wilson, officially benched. And how about this from Connor Hughes, one of the insiders for the New York Jets? I think this tweet, bear with me, it's a long one, but it puts a lot of things into perspective. The Jets had no choice but to make the move from Zach Wilson. And how about this word describing the plane ride home from Buffalo? That was their most recent game. The atmosphere was catatonic. Now, hand up, I had to look up what that meant, but it lacked all kinds of energy, it lacked life, it was silent, and you get the idea. It was a catatonic environment in the plane ride home for the New York Jets, because I keep saying it, but they have hit rock bottom. Hughes went on to talk about what exactly the Jets had in mind by benching the Zach Wilson and making a move at the starting quarterback position. They hoped things would get better with Tim Boyle, and we've already seen the worst case scenario, and that's an offense that still isn't any worse than it is right now. So basically, it's tough to say, and nothing personal against Zach Wilson, but it can't get any worse with Tim Boyle, and that is saying a lot. Hughes wraps up his tweet by saying the loss to the Bills was rock bottom for this offense. They somehow got worse with the youth movement, the players-only meeting, yada, 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 and they realized things were not going to get any better with Wilson under center. So it was time to see what they could with Tim Boyle. Yes, Tim Boyle. Again, don't adjust your tablet, your phone, or whatever you're watching that on. Tim Boyle is going to be the starting quarterback for the New York Jets. And I don't want to sound overconfident, but the Jets' offense is a joke. Look at the numbers from the game against Buffalo. 6 drives of negative yards. That's for the whole drive. Only 2 drives of 10 or more yards, and their longest drive was 45 yards. One of those plays was for 40 yards. So, again, I don't want to put the Dolphins' defense up there like they're this generationally good defense, but we know what they've done defensively their last 3 games, and this is an opportunity to take a step forward. So I'm sure you can hear it in my voice, but I want to know from you. I'm feeling pretty confident in a Dolphins victory on Friday, but you got to let me know what you think in the comments below. Scale it for me 1 through 10. With Tim Boyle being the starting quarterback, listen, we all had to do a little research on this guy because he hasn't played a lot in the National Football League. Played college at Eastern Kentucky. Fight on, the Eastern Kentucky Colonials. I learned that one today as well. But he does have 18 career appearances. dating back to 2019. He's played for Green Bay, Chicago, and Detroit. So an NFC North guy, am I right? I remember him starting that Thanksgiving game for Detroit in 2021. Not pretty. Career stats on the screen for you: 73 of 120 for 607 yards, the 9 interceptions compared to just 3 touchdowns. So the numbers ain't great, but like we read from previous tweets, the Jets had to do something. So from one weakness of the team, we go to a strength of the team. The Jets' defense has been really good all season long. They've been consistent. Now, the game against Buffalo was definitely their worst game of the season. But prior to that, Pro Football Focus, and I say it every time, that's not the end-all be-all, but it's a good benchmark. They had the Jets' defense ranked as one of the best defenses, as the best defense statistically, according to Pro Football Focus. But they are coming off their worst performance, allowing those 32 points against Buffalo, but overall the 11th best defense in the National Football League. And they do it at every level. All 3 levels of the defense have some playmakers, some guys that can change the game. Sauce Gardner, he's your reigning Rookie of the Year. And I'm not saying he's having a sophomore slump by any means, but he burst onto the scene as a rookie, was really impressive last year, and can be a guy that snags some interceptions. Now, the Jets defense, Quincy Williams, the linebacker for the Jets, is the best linebacker at stopping the run, according to Pro Football Focus. And Quinnen Williams, a really good player as well that can get after you from the defensive tackle position. And that's a guy that is going to impact the game. He's somebody that the Dolphins offensive line will have to be aware of, as are all these guys. And prior to that game against Buffalo, Pro Football Focus had the Jets defense ranked as the best in the NFL. So I'll leave it up to you. I've had my doubts about the Dolphins offense, especially as of late, but let me know in the comments. Call your shot. How many points do you think the Dolphins will score on Friday? Coming up next, I'll give you my Dolphins keys to victory in this game against the Jets on Black Friday. But first, I got to give a shout out to Prize Picks, proud presenting sponsor of today's edition of Dolphins Today. And Prize Picks, far and away the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. You got the flex play, you got the power play, and here's how it works. Because I know your fantasy team sucks by now, so play daily fantasy instead. It's real simple. You take a player's projected stat, whether it's touchdowns, rushing yards, receiving yards, passing yards, so on and so forth, and you simply pick more or less. It makes playing the game that much more exciting on game day. I do it every Dolphins game day. Had one for Monday Night Football last night, that good one between the Chiefs and the Eagles, and I fell a little bit short. So if you want to fade me from here on out, I completely get it, but make no mistake about it, Prize Picks is the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's also the largest independently owned daily fantasy sport platform in North America. So you know the portfolio and the library of picks is exceptional. So go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS. We've got a $100 deposit match waiting for you. I'll say it one more time, but we're putting it in the comments as well to make it easy on you. But prizepicks.com/CLNS. Now, on the Miami side of things, we talked about the Jets, and it's tough not to be a little bit overconfident in this one. And again, it's early in the week. I'll eventually get into game mode. But again, being honest with you, when I took a look at what the Jets offense is, I felt really good about the keys to victory for the Dolphins. But we'll start on offense where the Dolphins have struggled. They got to start fast. They've been in this funk where they haven't been able to manufacture impressive drives in the opening parts of games. We saw it on Sunday against the Raiders. They just get in this rut, and you see it on the screen there. In the 3 losses this season, just 10 combined points in the first 3 quarters. So I'm not saying it's everything, but you would love to see Tua and this offense get off to a fast start and get into a rhythm, because we know they can put up points in a hurry like they've done in several games when they get off to that fast start. Secondly, defensively, let's build off the last few weeks. Am I right? I mean, this has been a Dolphins defense that we've been asking for to take that next step, and in the last couple of games, they really have. That's a credit to Vic Fangio, but it's also, I'll call it the Jalen Ramsey effect, because now this Dolphins defense is forcing turnovers. 6 turnovers forced in the last 3 games, 3 of them against the Raiders. Before that, 6 turnovers forced in the entire season, and that was the previous 7 games. So you get the idea with Jalen Ramsey out there, he has brought this defense to a new level where they're able to force turnovers and not just make stops, but make game-changing plays like you saw Jalen Ramsey do against the Raiders. And continue to get pressure on the quarterback. That's a recipe for success in any game, but I really like the way Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips are playing 10 sacks in their last 5 games. And how about the second half, the way this defense has been back-to-back second half shutouts, first against the Chiefs in Germany and then on Sunday against the Raiders. So keep that momentum going. Now, back to the offense. And I hate to sound negative or like I'm pointing the finger at somebody, but stop beating yourself. It's that simple. A lot of these mistakes that the Dolphins made, and Tua admitted this after the game on Sunday, they're self-inflicted wounds. Mike McDaniel talked about some of the penalties. Those things are going to happen in the National Football League, but this offense is too good to continue making those self-inflicted wounds and continue to make those unforced errors and those mistakes on the offensive side of the ball. And yeah, the special teams could help out a little bit as well. I know I harped on Jason Sanders in yesterday's video about the Dolphins, and he was 2 for 3 on Sunday, but that one he missed was just a momentum killer, and anytime you miss a field goal, it's a missed opportunity. So stop with the self-inflicted wounds, or my hair is going to be gray by the time this season is over. I think the Dolphins are the better team in this one. I won't lie to you. And in the National Football League, it's any given Sunday. I know you've heard the cliche. I say it all the time. But make sure if you're the Dolphins, you go out, you take care of business because you are the better team. And lastly, you know I wouldn't get through a preview without this one. I'm too much of a football guy for that. And you gotta win the turnover battle. Although maybe I gotta stop because I've said this every single week, and the turnover stats for the Dolphins are brutal, and it's disproving my theory that you can't lose the turnover battle and still win the games because the Dolphins haven't been positive in the turnover battle in 6 of their last 7 games. So again, if the self-inflicted wounds don't make my hair go gray, the turnovers will. Because I keep preaching it, and we just haven't seen it. And this is a tough test because, like we said, that Jets defense, very, very good. And we showed you this yesterday, but I love the quote from Tua taking full responsibility about the offense, saying, we can be a better team. We can be a better offense for the team. When I stop turning the ball over, it's that simple. So we leave you with that. Stop turning the ball over. It's that simple. And time for a little predict the score. I want to see your score predictions in the comments because I'm going back and forth on this one. I really am. And I check my notes here. How many points can the Dolphins really score against this Jets defense? And you guys know me. I'm a pretty optimistic, positive guy. So I'm going Dolphins with the win 31-6 because that offense is terrible. But that's going to do it for today's Dolphins versus Jets preview. Again, we've got a live watch party for you, and it's a great time to join because the game is only available on Amazon Prime. So make sure you join us for our watch party. If you can't be at the game, Dolphins on the road, the next best place is to be with your best friends at Dolphins Today for our live watch party. So shout out producer Seeps on the 1s and 2s. Always a pleasure to be with you. And make sure you join us for everything leading up to Dolphins versus Jets on your home for Dolphins content, Dolphins Today.